all over the country. We will be taking our country back. It all starts now. We'll be taking our country back. I love you. I love you too. That was a guy that said it, but I love him too. Thank you, everybody. Amazing. So we broke the record, and I asked the fire marshal, please come up, because nobody's going to believe me. Please come up. So it was 1974, 1972. That's a long time record that we broke. Incredible. Thank you all very much. It's amazing. No matter where we go, this happens. The crowds are incredible. Time magazine just did a story, a cover story on the movement, and that's what it is. It's a movement. The people are incredible. The people of this country are unbelievable, and we love you, I'm telling you, and we're going to do so great. We're going to win this thing, and we're going to start winning on trade and with the military and with our veterans. Right. Hey, you know the other thing? I have all night. I think we'll stay here all night. This is like a love fest, all night. That was a rough one. Was not easy with all the traffic and all the problems and mechanical and everything else. So my guy said, oh, that's okay. We can go back to New York, Mr. Trump. We'll come another day. I said, there's no way. I love Arkansas. There's no way. There's no way. So, we've had an amazing journey. It's a journey. You know, I never did this stuff before. I never did it before. But what I did do before, and what I do is, we're gonna negotiate so smart for our country. That's what I do. I create jobs, and I always say, I'll be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. We're gonna have jobs. So I just left Iowa, which is a great place. It's a great state and amazing people. And the polls had me down as winning a little bit. And then when I came in second, it was sort of amazing because the person who came in third, they're saying, oh, what a great result. It was unbelievable. I thought he won. In fact, I saw something. I actually thought that was Marco Rubio. I thought he won. I said, man, they're talking like unbelievably. He came in third, more than 2,000 votes behind me. That's a lot of votes. That's a lot of votes. And they said he was right next to number two, right? He wasn't. So listen to this. So they said, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Came in third. Now the guy that came in second, but actually I think I came in first because if you take a look, okay? You know. Oh, that voter fraud. You know, these politicians are brutal. They're brutal. They are brutal. They are a bunch of dishonest cookies, I want to tell you. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this. It's one of the reasons. So we start off where number three got praised. But number two, he was number two. But then I come out and, you know, we set a record. In the history of Iowa, there's never been that much vote. There's never been that many voters. So that's good. I wonder why, you know. Just look at this place. And they send out an application. And it looks like it's sent by the government. And it says, voter violation on the top. And it looks just like it came from the IRS, okay? Voter violation, and then it has all sorts of problems, and then it says, go vote for this guy. And I said, man, that's like a fraud. And then they have, as you know, Ben Carson, a good guy, very good guy. They said, Ben Carson's essentially left the race, vote for the guy, right? I said, how can they do that? And everybody said, how can they do that? and then he doesn't get the votes, Ben, but Ted gets the votes, and you say, give me a break. And then the pollster said, well, I told you I was right because they had us up 5%. This political stuff is dangerous, and these political people are really, really dishonest. Really dishonest. It's unbelievable. So let's see where it goes. My focus is on New Hampshire. I have to say we're doing great up there. The people in New Hampshire are great. People in Arkansas are great. I have to tell you this. I'll tell you what. The people of this country are great. You want to know the truth? The people of our country are great. And we don't need a president who was born in Canada. Do we agree? Okay, and believe me. By the way, that is a real problem. All you need to do is give somebody a little bit of a thing called the nomination. Within about 24 hours, the Democrats are going to be suing, and they could very well win based on a lot of constitutional law and a lot of lawyers. You know, you shouldn't be running for president if you're not allowed to serve, okay? So we're going to see what happens. And it'll be very, honestly, the whole thing is interesting. It's all interesting stuff. All interesting stuff. All right, get him out. Never fails. I didn't think we'd see that in Little Rock. I didn't think, right? All right, that's okay. I love protesters because it's the only way the cameras will show how big this crowd is. It's the only way. It's the only way. It's true. Oh, look at that. It's amazing. So, I have to tell you a story about Arkansas because I have such respect for Arkansas. And by the way, I have to tell you this. Hillary and Bill left Arkansas. They left you, folks. They left you. Whether you like it or not, they left you. And I guarantee you, if she or he were here tonight, they wouldn't be having 12,000 people filling up this arena. That I can tell you. And the fire marshal would not be up here to make a speech that this is the all-time record for this facility. All right. But now, seriously, I have to tell you, sir. So a friend of mine who's a very, very successful guy got sick, got very sick. And he was told he's not going to make it. And he was told that by the biggest hospitals in New York, by the biggest hospitals in Texas, and in California. He was finished. And he told me, Donald, I'm really in trouble. This is 10 years ago. And I said, wow, that's too bad. He had cancer. He had very, very bad cancer and a very unusual form of cancer, but a total killer. And he went to the best hospitals and it was over. Very successful guy. All of a sudden he calls me and he said, you know, there's a guy that I met from Arkansas, right? From Arkansas. And he's supposed to be the greatest expert. And his name, I remembered his name, Dr. Barlagi. I don't know if you ever hear of him? So he came to Arkansas 10 years ago. And I'll tell you something. There was a second one, the same thing. Almost the same timing. A year different. They both came here. They were both goners. They were gone. It was over. They came to Arkansas. They're fine today. They're fine. I mean, fine. Amazing. And I was consoling his family and his wife, and although maybe the wife doesn't like him that much, I have to think about that, okay. But But seriously, I mean, I was consoling the family, and and with all the great hospitals, and we have great hospitals, they came to Arkansas, and the doctors in Arkansas took care, and I've never forgotten it. To me, it was an amazing thing because he had felt that it was just about over. So congratulations, folks. That's pretty good, right? You know, it's really pretty amazing. Our country doesn't win anymore. We don't win. We don't win in trade. We don't win with our military. Look at ISIS. I mean, they're laughing at us. It's just crazy what's going on. We don't win. We don't win at the border. People cross the border. Go ahead. So what are we going to do at the border, folks? Build a wall. Build a wall. You know, in a few weeks, it's going to be your chance to vote. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to do very well. I think we're going to do very well. By the way, are you ready? Who's going to pay for that wall? Who's going to pay? They are. They're going to pay. Now, I have a lot of respect for Mexico. I have thousands of people over the years that have worked for me, Hispanics. They're great people, amazing people, and they love me and I love them. But the leaders of Mexico, the leaders of China, the leaders of Japan, the leaders of every country, I think, in the world, because we don't make good deals. Every single country, the leaders are too smart, they're too cunning, they're too sharp for our leaders. If you call them leaders. I don't even think they're leaders. I hate to even use the word. But if you look at the border and if you look at what's happening, and that's where it all began for me. I came down on June 16th and I was riding the escalator. I said to Melania, my wife, I said, darling, we have to do it. And you know what? It takes guts to do what I'm doing. I tell you what, it takes guts to run for president, right? You know that. Not easy. It's not easy. And I've always heard if you're a successful person or a very successful person, you cannot do it. I understand that. You'll do 500 deals. And if you have one that didn't work out so well, which, by the way, I always make them work out in the end, but sometimes you make them ugly. No, that's the sign of greatness, is when you make them work out. Oh, sometimes you torture the banks, etc., etc., but you make them work out. You're building a massive building. Everything's going good. The market collapses because the politicians don't know what they're doing, or because, you know, you have the ups and downs of markets, right? And the real talent is making things work when in theory they shouldn't work. And I do that. We all do that. And by the way, get ready, because our country, you talk about not working, our country probably has a real rate of unemployment, not 5% or 6%. It's probably 25%. You know, we wouldn't have full stadiums, to be honest, if it was really 5%, because jobs are so important for our country. And we have packed. I was in Oklahoma, 20,000 people. I was in Dallas, 21,000 people in the Mavericks arena. I mean, a bigger arena than this, an incredible arena. 21,000 people. I went to Mobile, Alabama. Mobile. You do like Alabama, right? Right? She's saying no, but you have to say they have a hell of a football team, right? Right? No, we love Alabama. But we were in Mobile, Alabama, and we had 35,000 people. I'll never forget it. We had the biggest hotel, and I did it as a friend, favor to a friend of mine. We had the biggest hotel, and we filled it up like in 1 minute. The hotel people called, and they said, we can't do it. Whoops, do I hear somebody shouting? Is he a friend or foe? Friend or foe? He's a Razorback. He's a Razorback. It's good. So we filled up the hotel. Then they said, we can't do it. There's too many people. They were all over the lot. I mean, this is a big hotel with a big ballroom. Held 1,000 people. So I said, what are we going to do? Go to the convention center. The convention center held 10,000 people. Within 2 hours, we realized that wasn't going to work. So we went to the football stadium. And I'll tell you what, that has been, and what's going on in this country, it's one of the biggest topics of conversation all over the world, and I'm proud of it. So this started when I came down the escalators. Do I hear somebody shouting over there? Hello, darling. You know, it's funny. You see these people and they shout. They're usually lonely and they're by themselves. Oh, they start screaming. No, it's true. They're lonely. No, they get a little attention, but it's sad. And I say to sometimes a lot of young people, and I say, you know, if I could be with that person for like 10 minutes in a quiet area and just talk to him, because really, don't we want the same? We want security, right? We want good jobs. We want jobs. We want good health care. We will repeal and replace Obamacare, which is a disaster. A disaster. By the way, this guy, Ted Cruz goes out. You talk about liars. Listen to this. He goes out, he says, Donald Trump loves Obamacare. I've been fighting this thing for 4 or 5 years. And by the way, if it weren't for Ted Cruz, he's the one that got Justice Roberts onto the United States Supreme Court. He pushed him, he approved him, and Justice Roberts approved Obamacare twice when it should have been rejected. His vote got it over the top. Ted Cruz did that. Ted Cruz gave us Obamacare. Believe me. And you know, what I hate is when somebody lies. Every single speech, I think, and a lot of you have heard this, every single speech that I've made, I talk about repealing and replacing Obamacare. Here's a guy gets up in Iowa and he said, Donald Trump wants Obamacare. You know, it's a flat out lie, a flat out lie. And you know, it's okay and you can be political, but these guys are bad. I mean, they are bad. And then he'll get up and he'll talk about his relationship with God, his relationship with the Bible, his relationship with all sorts of things. And then he'll say, Donald Trump loves Obamacare. Now, everybody in this room knows I've been opposed to it so strongly. It would have been dead if we had a different justice on the United States Supreme Court, put there by him. And he says, what happens, and one of the reasons I'm doing this, is that politicians are all talk and no action. They're never going to get it done. They're never going to get it done. It's not going to happen. They're dishonest people. They're incompetent in many cases. In some cases, actually, they're very competent for themselves. By the way, I'm self-funding my campaign. Every single one of these people. Every single politician running, everybody running on both sides, Democrat, Republican, every single one running is getting the money from the trough, meaning special interests, lobbyists, and a lot of times when you see these horrible deals being made, they're not so bad for the politician because they get paid off indirectly by people putting up their campaigns. You look at Jeb Bush, this poor guy. He has $128 million. He's spent like over $100 million and he's nowhere. He's nowhere. It's sad. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And then, by the way, you know what he spends a lot of money? Ads against me. And my polls go up every time he does an ad. It's crazy. It's crazy. No, it is crazy. And you know, I watch and I talk to people. Our country is spending so much money. There's so much waste and fraud and abuse. You look at the VA. We're going to fix the VA for our vets. Our vets are getting... No, we're going to fix it. What's going on in the Veterans Administration, what's going on there, and you see it all the time. You take a look at Phoenix. The corruption is unbelievable. Washington, The corruption is unbelievable. Our vets are waiting in an office, a waiting room, for 4, 5, and 6 days. They're dying while they wait for a doctor. They're dying. And we're only here because of them. And our great police, by the way. We love our police, right? We love our police. We love our police. You know, our police have not been treated right. They're afraid to talk to anybody nowadays. They want to keep their job. They want to keep their pension. They're afraid to talk. And you know, every once in a while, and so rarely, you'll have a bad apple, or you'll have somebody makes a tragic mistake. It's always the biggest story on television. Our police are not treated well. Our police are treated very badly. I will tell you that. I will tell you that. And I have so much support from the police. I mean, so many areas have come out totally in favor of me. I don't know if anybody has any support. I don't think anybody could, because they are going to be treated properly if I get in. And remember, maybe local, but we're going to make sure the policemen are treated properly and our vets are treated properly. Okay. So very important, and in particular for this area, because I know that China recently did a very major number in this area. You know that. We are going to have our greatest business people. We have the greatest business people in the world. I know so many of them. Carl Icahn backed me. He's one of the great businessmen. So many of the others backed me. They want to have news conferences, a lot of them. They say, Donald, could we have a news conference? I said, why? Nobody knows who the hell you are. But I do. They're great negotiators. And if you look at what's happening with China and these other places, China is making a fortune. We have rebuilt China. I love China. I love the Chinese people. I do so much. I sell condos in Manhattan for a fortune. I own the Bank of America building, a big chunk in San Francisco. Got it from the Chinese. So many things. The biggest bank in the world is from China. It's a tenant of mine in Manhattan, right? The biggest in the world. I love China. But their leaders are too smart for our leaders. It's like not even a contest. I have a friend. He's a manufacturer. I know how hard it is for you to do business with China. I heard it. I'm looking at it. I'm reading it just before. You have a hard time dealing with China. So I have a friend. He's a great manufacturer. He sends stuff to China, they send it back. Sends it, they send it back. Finally sends it, they charge him a lot of tax. And he makes better product than they send over here, believe me. Guy's great. He said, it's impossible to do business over there. And yet they send their stuff over, no tax, no nothing. They take our jobs. Remember this, I get along great with China. In fact, the bank just renewed their lease. Can you believe it? I said, are they really renewing after the way I talk about them? They respect, you know what? They respect intelligence. They respect the truth. No, I actually said it. No, they just renewed their lease. I said, really? Are they really renewing it? Yeah, they just renewed their lease, and they respect it. You know what? They're smart, and they get it, and they understand it. And I have friends from China that spent millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars buying apartments from me. They can't believe they get away with what they get away with. And I'm not angry at China. I'm angry at our leaders for being so damn stupid. So we're going to change things. We're going to make great trade deals. If you think about, as an example, that's the biggest of them all. That's the biggest abuser. And remember this, China, it's the single greatest theft, what they've done to us in the history of the world. That's how bad it is. It's the single greatest theft. Nobody has taken so much out of a country, millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies and factories and other things left our country. And then they say, are you a free trader? I am a free trader. But the trade has to be equitable. It has to be fair. And it's not fair. They're stripping our country. We're going to lose this year $500 billion with one country, China. It's going to stop, okay? It's going to stop. Unbelievable. Then you have Japan. They send their cars in by the millions. We give them practically nothing. They send the cars in. Just so you understand, We have all the chips. Our leaders never read The Art of the Deal, one of the great books, of course. But our leaders don't know what they're doing. The greatest of all, when I talk about not knowing, the Iran deal, this recent deal, which is a catastrophe, okay? We give them $150 billion. We get absolutely nothing. There'll be nuclear proliferation. It's going to be a disaster. The Iran deal is going to be a disaster. Mark my words. And I've been very good at predicting. I predicted lots of things. I said, take the oil, right? They all said, oh, that's ridiculous. That now they're trying to take the oil. But they're not taking the oil. And they're not doing it the right way. Do you know they don't want to bomb certain areas of the oil because they don't want environmental pollution? Do you know that? This is serious. They don't want to do it environmentally. No good. Can you imagine General George Patton saying, we don't want to bomb the oil because it's going to cause environmental disturbance? I mean, there's something wrong with our country. We got to get ISIS out of there. We got to knock the shit out of them and be done. We got to... No, we got to be done with it. You know, Jeb Bush and Hillary, in the same day, they said, we don't like Donald Trump's tone. My tone. They're chopping the heads off people that we know all over the Middle East. And by the way, if you're a Christian, it's almost guaranteed. They're chopping heads off. We're living in medieval times. We never grew up with it. You know, we saw horrible things. What about this whole thing? We are now living in medieval times. We are living in the worst times in terms of violence and horror. Because when I look at what's going on in the Middle East, and then we want to take people in from the Middle East on the migration, bring thousands and thousands of people into, are we crazy? Bring thousands of people. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. You look at those migration lines, they're strong, young men. So many strong, young men. We're not doing it, folks. We can't do it. We can't do it. We don't know what's going to happen. Look, it could be, and honestly, it could be one of the great Trojan horses of all time. We don't know. And you know what? Probably it's not. But we can't take a chance. You know, bringing in that many people, going to cost us billions of dollars to start off with. And I have to say this, we all have a heart, and we ought to build a safe zone in Syria, and we ought to get the Gulf states, and we can lead it. We can lead it. Look at what's happening to Germany. It's like a disaster. Look at what's happening with Sweden and Denmark and Brussels and so many different places. We can't allow it to happen. You look at what went on in Paris recently. You look at what went on in California with the two young people, where she probably radicalized him. Doesn't matter. They both become highly radicalized. They go and kill 14 people. People are horribly wounded in the hospital. In Paris, the toughest gun control laws in the world in France. Paris in particular, the toughest in the world, right? So what happens is these thugs go in, these horrible, horrible people. They go in various places. They kill 130 people. You have people standing all over. Boom, come over, boom, come over, boom. They kill 130 people. You have people mortally wounded, horribly wounded by a tremendous number. They don't even want to say how many more deaths to follow, and lives that have been destroyed. Not one gun in those rooms where the bullets could go in the other direction, not one. So if we had like this man and that guy right there and that guy and just a few, and if they were carrying guns on their hip or around their ankle, right? It'd be a whole different picture, folks. We are going to protect our Second Amendment if I win, okay? We're gonna protect it. Now, education. Let's talk, because without education, you don't have the American dream. The American dream is based on, you have to know. You have to know what's going on. You have to go to school. You have to be treated right. You have to learn. So our schools, the concept is Common Core is a disaster. Our schools in Arkansas are run out of Washington by people that don't give a damn about the schools, and some do. But for the most part, they care about how much money are they going to make, and they make a lot. You want to see Department of Education? I want education to be local, with love. That's what it's got to be. No more Common Core. No more Common Core. So, in the world, we spend more money per pupil than any other country in the world, by so much that second doesn't even count. It's so far below. Now you have Denmark, Norway, Sweden, China. These are the top 4 or 5 countries. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, China. They have great education, right? We spend so much more per pupil than them. It's unbelievable, right? Now, we spend the most by far, by a factor of 2, 3, and 4 sometimes, and they don't even know what we spend. They can't even give the numbers. They're estimating. So we spend more, and yet we're number 30. We were 28, now we dropped down to 30. We're going in the wrong direction. For 2 years I've been saying number 28, now I'm saying number 30. So we spend the most money per pupil, and we're at the bottom of the heap. We have countries that are third world countries that have better education than the United States of America, all right? And I remind, every time I think of Bush spending $100 million and he's at the bottom of the pack, and I spent the least money of any candidate and I'm number 1. Is that good? Are you proud of me? You proud of me? No, I spent the least. You know, I hate to tell you this. So I'm $40 million under budget. Did you ever hear of under budget before in this country? I'm $40 million. I thought by this time I would have spent about $45 million. I've spent very little, a fraction of that. And I've spent just about the least. But wouldn't it be nice if our country could spend the least and have the best, right? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? And that's what we're going to do. When you look at what's going on in the country, when you look at the waste, when you look at the way they negotiate deals, because the drug companies take care of the politicians and they don't want negotiation. They don't want negotiation. So just think of this. Everyone says, oh, well, there's not that much waste. If you were allowed, let me do it, or let me get one of my friends that's a killer on Wall Street, or one of my enemies that's I got plenty of enemies too. But I know the best. I know the best. I know the overrateds. I know the absolute killers that will do so good, they'll turn the whole thing with China around so fast, your head will spin. Because what you don't understand, these countries need us because we give them a fortune. They need us so badly, right? So, I'll do it. I'd love to do this one. With the drug companies, you know, and here's the thing about not accepting millions. I would have the largest fund ever set up in the history of politics if I wanted to. I have guys, look, the other night, I missed the debate because I skipped it, because they weren't treating me properly. No, they weren't. You gotta stick up for your rights. You gotta stick up for your rights. And what did I do? I held just a little, by the way, a little thing where we turned about 6,000 people away. We took a room that held 800 people, filled it up in about 2 seconds. Unfortunately, we had to turn thousands of people away. But we did something for the vets. In 1 hour, I raised $6 million, okay? It's true. We had great guys. Phil Ruffin, a great entrepreneur. I said, Phil, would you help out? 1 million. Carl Icahn gave me $500,000. Ike Perlmutter and Laurie Perlmutter gave us $1 million. So many people, everybody I asked, if I set up a fund, people would give me, I would have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. But you know what? They'd have influence. These guys set up, and I don't need it. It's nice. I built a great company, a great business. I don't need it. But these people are taking money And they're taking money from the special interests and the lobbyists and the drug companies as an example. And that's why we don't negotiate the cost of drugs. Now, I've heard all different numbers, and I can't tell you that I know the exact number, but I hear it's between $300 and $350 billion that you'd save on a yearly basis. Can you believe that? Now, $350 billion, a couple of deals like that, all of a sudden you have real money, right? $350 billion. Now, that may be wrong. It may be $200 billion. It may be $300. I can't tell you. I can tell you this. If I negotiate it, it's going to be more than if anybody else in the world negotiates it. But the drug companies have it so that they can't negotiate. So they're selling it essentially pretty much at a retail price. Can you believe it? So we're the biggest user in the entire world, and we're paying like if you walk into a drugstore and buy something off the counter. All because the drugstores and because the drug companies have such power over our politicians. So a lot of times when you hear stories like that, a lot of people say, gee, that's strange. It's never strange to me because I know how it happens. Many of the worst deals that you've heard about, like the Rand deal, they just bought 118 Airbuses. They're taking the $150 billion that we gave them. 118 Airbuses. They're buying from all over Europe. They're buying in Italy. They're buying from everybody but the United States. What kind of a deal is this? And then Kerry gets up last week and he goes, we know some of the money may be used for terror and we expect that. I'm saying we expect that. Then what the hell did we make the deal for? He has to be the worst negotiator I've ever seen. So with the drug companies, we have a saving of $350 billion. One element. It'll be amazing. Now it's hard. You negotiate with all of them. And by the way, one of them, with all of the money, Pfizer is leaving the United States and moving to Europe. They're moving to Ireland. They're leaving thousands and thousands of jobs. And I don't even blame them. Their taxes are too high. Many companies are leaving. It's called corporate inversion. Many companies, in the old days, they'd leave Arkansas, they'd go to Florida, or they'd leave Arkansas, they'd go to Texas. It's terrible. But what's really terrible is when they leave Arkansas and go to Europe and China, go to Asia. That's really terrible, okay? And we'll stop it. Their taxes are too high. There's $2.5 trillion in other parts of the world. We can't get the money back in. And here's a good one. The only thing that I've ever seen in the last 3 years that the Republicans and the Democrats, liberals and conservatives, everybody, they agree on this, is the money that's not in our country, that's offshore, that's in Europe, in Asia, where they want to bring it back. They're companies based here. $2.5 trillion, I think that's a low number. That's what they say. But everything the United States says is wrong because they have no. Do you think they have accounting practices? They did a $5 billion website for Obamacare, and it still doesn't work. $5 billion. $5 billion. We don't know what the hell we're doing. I have so many websites, they cost 15 cents. No, it's true. And they're better than that piece of garbage that still, it never works. Well, part of the reason it doesn't work is because Obamacare doesn't work. But everybody agrees that the $2.5 trillion or the $5 trillion probably, because I say it's closer to $5 trillion, I bet I'm right, that this money, everybody agrees, should come into the United States so that they can use it and distribute it and build with it and expand and create jobs and all of those things, right? So the Republicans and the Democrats have agreed on it for 3 years. Can't make a deal. Everybody agrees they can't make a deal. So, they have a lot of disagreements, and you can understand why they don't make a deal. They disagree. But here's something. Everybody agrees. The money, what's not to agree? Bring this money, these trillions of dollars, bring them into the United States, create jobs, do things, invest in the United States. They can't get it done. You know why? Because we don't have a president that can sit these people together and get the damn deal done. Terrible. So I'll tell you about negotiation. I've never said this at one of my speeches, I think. I've made a lot of speeches lately, folks, but I don't think I've ever said it. So the most sought after property In the history of the General Services Administration, the GSA, right? Everybody knows the GSA. They're like the big landlord for the United States. And they're terrific people, I have to tell you. I have a lot of respect for them. They're great professionals, they really are. And we've had a great relationship, but they're great professionals. The most sought after property, or let's say one of them, but I hear the most. They had many, many, many bidders. Everybody wanted the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a building built in the 1880s and 1890s. It's got walls that are 5 foot thick of solid granite. It's one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen, one of the great buildings of Washington. And for years and years and years, it was the post office. It was built. I always say, if you're in real estate, you want a good location, always get the post office because they were there first, right? It's always the best location. So the old post office sits on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's the most beautiful thing right next to the IRS and many other incredible buildings. Best location. And everybody wanted it. Everybody. I mean everybody. Every hotel chain wanted it. It was, again, sought after by many, many companies. And I went for it. And I said to myself, Obama has to give it. It's impossible for me to get it. It's impossible. But I said, all right. And I put my daughter in. Do you know my daughter, right? Ivanka, right? So I put my daughter, Ivanka, in charge. Man, she's terrific, and she really is. She's a terrific person. She's a terrific person, actually. I'll tell you what, most importantly. And my children are terrific children. But I put her in charge, and I worked with her. And we submitted a bid, and we went through a process, and it took a long time. And at the end, the GSA wanted two things. They wanted a great building, a great renovation, which we had the best plan. Going to build a 300-room super luxury hotel. There'll be no hotel in this country like it. Maybe one of the great hotels, definitely one of the great hotels, maybe the single finest hotel in the world. So they love that plan. Plus hotels employ a lot of people, so it's good. And they check your balance sheet because they want to make sure it gets built. And my balance sheet is phenomenal, by the way, or we don't get the deal. So in the Obama administration, I get the prize property. Is that good negotiation, right? And now, and it's going to be great. And honestly, I take my hat off to a lot of people on this one. It's going to be a fantastic project. But here's the thing. It's almost 2 years ahead of schedule, and it's under budget. So we're going to end up opening the hotel practically 2 years earlier than it was projected. And we're going to try and have it open for a certain date that's coming due very, very soon, sitting on Pennsylvania Avenue. So we have this great building on Pennsylvania Avenue, right between the Capitol building and the White House, right smack in the middle. And I said to myself, you know, if I don't make the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm going to be living on Pennsylvania Avenue anyway, all right? No, but as good as this is, we want to be at the other because it means so much, because there's so many things that we're going to do. So I just want to tell this group, and I'm going to take a couple of questions, which I never do with these big audiences, okay? Give me some really vicious questions, please. Vicious, vicious. I want some horrible, disgusting, vicious questions. We're going to do it. I never do it, but tonight I'm doing it. Because this crowd is amazing. It's amazing. This crowd is amazing. So we're going to do that. But I just want to tell you this. I started off by saying, we don't win anymore. We're going to win so much. We're going to win so much. We are going to win and win and win. We're going to win on the military. We're going to win on Obamacare. We're going to get rid of that sucker. We're going to win on the border. We're going to stop it. People are going to come in, but they're going to come in legally, right? Legally. We're going to win. We're going to win so much. And you're going to remember this evening. You're going to be proud of yourselves. You're going to remember this evening because this is a movement. This is a movement. It's an incredible movement. It's a movement like they haven't seen before. A great writer called me up, and this was after the summer. This was like 3 months ago. And he said, how does it feel? I said, how does what feel? He said, how does it feel? What's going on with what you've done? They've never seen anything like it. Now that was 3 months ago. Now it's even more so. And as soon as I leave here, I'm going up to New Hampshire, and I think we're going to do great in New Hampshire. The people up there are great. In fact, I have 5 stops there tomorrow. but the people there are great. The people, everybody, they're all great. But how does it feel? I said, it doesn't feel anything, because unless we win, who cares? He said, no, you don't understand. Even if you don't win, what you've done has never been done before. It's incredible. I said, you're wrong. If I don't win, I've wasted a lot of time and a lot of money, because to make the right change, not Obama change, but to make the right change, we have to win. So when the SEC comes up, you folks have to get out and vote. No matter what you're doing, no matter how you feel, you have to get out and vote. You have to do it. And keep your ears open and your mind open, because I have seen more lies, more craziness, more viciousness with these politicians. They are the worst. Let me have a couple of questions. Go ahead, darling. Go ahead. I love her with her beautiful Trump shirt on. Go ahead.
Mr. Trump.
Wow, what a voice.
I'm Dr. Lynette Bryan, and I ran for governor in 2014 on the Democratic ticket because they wanted to make every constitutional officer their pick. Well, I'm voting for you.
Oh, I love you.
Woo! And with that, when you come to Arkansas, we give you a warm welcome, so you have to help us call out the pigs.
Ah, that's right. Okay. Thank you, honey. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Beautiful. I'll bet you're a good doctor, too. Go ahead. Who's got a question over there? I give it to that gentleman with the red hat on. That beautiful red hat that says, "Make America Great Again." Go ahead. Let's have a good-looking guy. Let's go.
How will you get rid of these gun-free zones, such as my university that had an active shooter in December when I was taking a final, and I had no way to protect myself because my university is a gun-free zone?
What is your university? What is it?
Arkansas State University.
That's a good school. So here's the story. Folks, gun-free zones are a disaster in our country. It's like holding up candy to a baby. It's like saying, please come and kill us because we have absolutely no protection. That's what you're talking about. So if you look at in Paris, essentially they had a gun-free zone. In California, they had a gun-free zone. You're not allowed to have guns. So they didn't have. But one of the worst that I've seen, we had 5 great soldiers less than a year ago killed. You remember that? A gun-free zone. One of the soldiers was a world-class marksman. The other 4 were great, powerful, wonderful young people and tremendous soldiers. They were told to put their guns away 300 yards away, lock them up, it's a gun-free zone, and a wacko comes in, knows it's a gun-free zone, and blows them away. There wasn't a thing they could have done, right? We're getting rid of the gun-free zone stuff, folks. We're getting rid of it. Have no choice. You have no choice. When you see a military base where these are the people that are protecting us, these are our soldiers, and they're not allowed to have guns, and then you have this scum walking off the street and blowing them away, we're getting rid of gun-free zones. Okay, go ahead, one or two more. Oh, this nice man with that beautiful head of gray hair, look at him. What a good head of hair he's got.
President Trump.
Go ahead, thank you.
Have faith. I've heard talk about Christian churches losing their tax-exempt status. Under you, will we have more protection?
Okay, so I love the question because I was just with a whole group. You know, with the evangelicals, I do amazingly well. I did well in Iowa. Countrywide, I'm leading with the evangelicals. And I met with some of the pastors and ministers last week. You know, the Christians they have no power. And the reason they have no power is during a certain period of time, and Lyndon Johnson was there, they passed exactly what you said, that if people get too strong together, which frankly Christianity should be, they're going to lose their tax exempt status, right? And they're afraid. They actually have less power. If you think about it, you probably have 250 people in this country, more power than men, more power than women, and they're afraid to use it exactly for that reason. Christianity is under siege, folks. It's under siege. If I said some of the things that I've said about Christianity as opposed to what I've said about other things, I would have had not the same difficulty. When I talk about radical Islamic terrorists, we have a president that won't use the name. He refuses. And unless you know what the hell you're doing, unless you're going to define it, you're never going to solve the problem. But if I would have been talking about Christianity, I wouldn't have had the same problems. Christianity's under siege. Little things, but they're big things to me. It's Christmas time. You can't say Merry Christmas anymore. If I win, folks, we're all going to be saying Merry Christmas.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.